Evan had recorded the first sentence 68 times. He knew because every failed attempt was still sitting on his computer. Take 61 sounded too stiff. Take 64 sounded nervous. Take 67 was almost usable, until Evan noticed that his left hand moved strangely when he spoke. So he deleted it and began again. Hi, everyone. In this lesson, I'm going to show you stop, delete, start again. For 14 months, Evan had been building an online class about visual design. The lessons were written. The examples were finished. The website was ready. Only one thing was missing. Evan had never published it. He told himself he was improving the quality, but what he was really waiting for was a feeling. He wanted to feel like the kind of person who could confidently stand in front of a camera, and until that person appeared, he refused to begin. What are you postponing until you feel more confident? A conversation? An application? The first video? First client? First public attempt? And what if confidence is not what allows you to begin? What if beginning is what creates confidence? Hi, I'm Sarah, and this is WiseMind Stories. This is episode 2 of our journey through Rise Above the Rest by Troy Blaine. The book asks us to act as if we are the best, not because we already feel fearless, but because the way we act teaches us what kind of person we might become. Today, we are confronting one of the most expensive beliefs in personal growth. I will do it when I feel ready. By the end of this episode, you will have a 4-step practice called the evidence loop, a way to build real confidence without fake affirmations, inflated self-talk, or pretending fear does not exist. Evan was 31 and worked as a senior designer at Brightwell, a small creative agency in Chicago. He was excellent when he could prepare privately. Give him a difficult brand problem and 2 quiet days, and he would return with work that made everyone else's ideas look unfinished. But ask him to present that work to a room, and something changed. His voice became smaller. He rushed through the strongest parts. If a client looked uncertain, Evan assumed he had lost them. So his creative director, Lena, usually presented his work for him. "You're better at the room," Evan would say. At first, the arrangement seemed efficient. Evan created. Lena presented. The agency won projects. But over time, clients began asking for Lena's judgment even when the judgment had started with Evan. New designers joined the company and assumed Lena was the creative mind behind his work. Evan felt overlooked, but he also felt relieved. Invisibility protected him from embarrassment. It also protected him from recognition. The online class was supposed to change that. He imagined students learning from his methods. He imagined speaking at design events. He imagined finally becoming visible on his own terms. But every recording showed him the distance between the person he was and the person he imagined. So he kept preparing. He bought a better camera. Then, a better microphone. He rewrote the introduction. He watched tutorials about eye contact, posture, lighting, vocal tone, and hand movement. Preparation gave him the emotional reward of progress without the risk of exposure. Have you ever spent so long preparing to begin that preparation became your hiding place? One Tuesday morning, Lena walked into Evan's office holding her phone. "Marcus has the flu," she said. Marcus was scheduled to represent Brightwell at a regional design conference the next afternoon. "That's terrible," Evan replied. "It is. You're taking his session." Evan laughed, because the alternative was panic. "No. Find someone else. The session is about the accessibility system you designed. No one else knows it well enough. I can give them my slides." They didn't invite the slides. Evan felt heat rising into his face. "I'm not ready." Lena leaned against the doorway. "I know." He waited for her to reassure him that he was ready after all. She did not. "You have 28 hours," she said. "You can use them trying to feel confident, or you can use them deciding what you'll do while you're not." That sentence felt almost unfair. Evan believed confidence was a prerequisite, like a ticket that had to be shown before entering the room. But Lena was asking him to enter without it. That night, Evan practiced until 2 in the morning. Each rehearsal made him more aware of what could go wrong. He could forget the opening. The audience could look bored. Someone could ask a question he could not answer. His hands could shake. At 2:17, he opened an email to the conference organizer and typed an apology. Then he looked at the folder containing 68 failed introductions. 14 months of trying to eliminate discomfort had not produced confidence. It had produced more sensitivity to imperfection. Evan closed the email. He took a blank card and wrote 3 sentences. "I know the material. I do not have to look calm to continue. My job is to deliver the next sentence, not control the entire room." At 7 the next morning, he sent his slides to Lena. She called him 5 minutes later. "Why are there 6 slides explaining your background?" she asked. "So they know I'm qualified. They already put you on the stage. But Marcus was supposed to be there. And now you are. Stop using the opening to ask permission to give the talk." Lena deleted 4 slides and moved the case study to the beginning. Evan felt exposed. Without the credentials, definitions, and careful setup, he would have to start with an actual point. "What if I freeze?" he asked. "Pause. Look at your card. Say the next sentence. What if the remote fails? Walk to the laptop. What if I don't know an answer? Tell the truth." Every answer annoyed him because none of them promised that the problem would not happen. They only gave him a response if it did. Then Lena said, "You're treating confidence like the belief that nothing will go wrong. Try a better definition. Confidence is knowing that something can go wrong without ending you." Evan had spent years trying to control the audience's impression of him. That morning, he prepared for something more useful. He prepared to remain present when the impression was imperfect. The next afternoon, Evan stood behind the curtain and listened to the host say his name. His heart was beating so hard that he could feel it in his throat. This was the moment he had imagined confidence would arrive. It did not. He walked onto the stage anyway. The first 30 seconds were worse than he feared. His voice shook. He clicked the remote twice and skipped a slide. Then he apologized, clicked backward, and lost his place. A man in the front row looked down at his phone. Evan's mind offered him an immediate conclusion. "You are proving why you should never have done this." He looked at the card beside his laptop. "My job is to deliver the next sentence." So he did. Then another. 3 minutes into the talk, Evan reached the case study he understood better than anyone else in the room. His voice steadied not because fear disappeared, but because attention moved from himself to the problem he knew how to solve. He explained why most accessibility efforts fail when they are treated as a final checklist instead of an early design constraint. The man in the front row put away his phone. Someone began taking notes. During the questions, a woman asked something Evan could not answer. His old definition of confidence demanded certainty. Instead, he said, "I don't know, but I can tell you how I'd investigate it." The room did not turn against him. The woman nodded. Afterward, 7 people stayed to speak with him. One asked whether Brightwell offered training. Another said the presentation had changed the way her team would begin its next project. But the most important evidence was not the applause or the compliments. It was simpler. Evan had been visibly nervous, made mistakes, faced a question he could not answer, and continued. The disaster he had spent 14 months preventing had partly happened, and he survived it. The first version of courage often sounds like a shaking voice that continues. On the train home, Evan understood something he could never have learned from another rehearsal. Confidence is not always the ticket you present before action. Often, it is the receipt you receive after surviving the action. This is what act as if can mean when it is grounded in reality. It does not mean pretending you have skills you do not possess. It does not mean denying anxiety. It means asking, if I trusted that I could handle discomfort, what would I do next? Then doing a version of that action small enough to survive. Evan went home and opened his online class. He did not suddenly publish all 12 lessons. That would have turned one brave day into another impossible standard. Instead, he chose one 3-minute tutorial. He recorded it twice. The second version contained a pause he disliked and one sentence he could have phrased better. He uploaded it anyway. During the first 24 hours, 43 people watched it. That number felt painfully small compared with the creators Evan followed. Then, a viewer left a comment. I used this today. It fixed a problem my team has had for weeks. Evan took a screenshot, not as proof that he was famous, but as proof that imperfect action could create real value. The next week, he published another lesson, then another. Some performed poorly. One received a critical comment that bothered him for days. A later video reached more people than all the previous ones combined. The critical comment said, "If you can't speak with authority, you shouldn't be teaching this." Evan read it at midnight. His cursor moved toward the delete button. The comment appeared to confirm the fear beneath every abandoned recording. Visible nervousness made his knowledge invalid. Then he opened the project file and watched the lesson again. The delivery was uneven. One example took too long. But the instruction was accurate, and other viewers had used it successfully. Evan wrote down what was useful in the criticism, shorten the example, and slow the final explanation. He left the rest where it belonged with the stranger who wrote it. He did not delete the lesson. The next morning, he published the next one. That action taught him more about confidence than 100 compliments could have. Praise had shown him that being visible could feel good. Criticism showed him that being visible could feel bad without forcing him back into hiding. But confidence was no longer measured by whether each result made him feel good. It was measured by whether he trusted himself to remain in motion when the result did not. Real confidence is not certainty that you will succeed. It is evidence that you can respond when you do not. What action would you take if you stopped demanding a guarantee from it? This brings us to the evidence loop. Confidence grows when the mind receives repeated, credible evidence that you can act, adapt, and recover. The loop has 4 steps. First, choose one action below your panic line, not the largest possible leap. The smallest action that is real enough to teach you something. Send one proposal. Publish one short video. Speak once in the meeting. Ask one honest question. Second, record behavioral evidence. Do not ask, did I feel confident? Ask, what did I do while I felt uncertain? I spoke even though my voice shook. I asked even though rejection was possible. I recovered after losing my place. Third, interpret the evidence accurately. Avoid dramatic affirmations your mind does not believe. You do not need to say, I am unstoppable. Say, I did something uncomfortable and remained capable of responding. That statement is modest enough to trust and strong enough to change your identity. Fourth, increase the next action slightly. One question becomes a short presentation. One short video becomes a complete lesson. One application becomes a conversation with a decision maker. Action creates evidence. Evidence changes interpretation. Interpretation makes the next action more available. That is the evidence loop. You do not think your way into a new identity. You collect evidence for it. What is one action below your panic line that you could complete in the next 24 hours? Not when the fear disappears. Not when your voice becomes perfect. Not when you finally feel like a confident person. Acting as if is not pretending fear is gone. It is refusing to let fear write the schedule. 6 months after the conference, Evan opened his online class for enrollment. He still re-recorded some sentences. He still disliked hearing his own voice. Before the launch, he still wondered whether anyone would care, but he no longer treated those feelings as instructions. The class did not transform his life overnight. 26 students joined the first group. It was smaller than the dream he had carried for 14 months. It was also infinitely larger than the audience for a course that remained hidden on his computer. The goal is not to feel ready. It is to become someone who can begin unready. In the next episode, we face the danger on the other side of this lesson. If you start acting more confidently, how do you stop confidence from becoming arrogance? How do you claim your place without believing every place belongs to you? That distinction is where we go next. If this episode gave you the next action you have been avoiding, subscribe to WiseMind Stories. Stories that change how you see your life.